Hello, Mermaid. So I want to review a book, and this book is called Raise Clairaudient Energy by Cyndi Dale. This is part of her energy series that I have completely forgotten what it's called. Essential Energy Library. She will remind you, though, in this book, again and again and again, that she has other books out and you should buy them. I hate that. I really hate that when authors do that. It's completely okay to say, okay, I have a book about this topic that goes into further detail. So if you're interested, check that out. It's completely okay. But when they sort of just only half covers a subject and says, read more in this and this and this book, I hate it. I hate it when authors in New Age and the occult does it. I hate it when role-playing games books do it. I hate it when any books do it. It's basically just a way to try to extract more money of it. It basically says, if you want to use my material, buy more of my books, bitches. And yeah, I don't like that. And to be quite honest, I didn't like this book much either. And come to think of it, I've read another one of her Essential Energy Library books, and I didn't like that one much either. So what's the problem with this book? The main problem is that, you know, when occultists, and then I'm thinking ceremonial magicians, look down their noses at New Agers and see everything New Age as flutter-wutter, unserious, made-up shit garbage? Yeah, what they're thinking about is this. There's a lot of great New Age ideas out there. And then there's this. So let me begin with saying some of my issues. First of all, she has a very, just do X and then everything is great. Basically, the way she presents it is that if you just do her exercises, then boom, you're clairaudient. And you can immediately trust what you hear 100%. Boom. And you don't need any form of training or development or any of the like. It's just boom. I mean, if it was so easy, everybody in the world would be clairaudient. Everybody would just get this information, boom, right in, because she basically goes right out and says it. You know, do these exercises, boom, you're clairaudient immediately. Yeah, it's not quite that easy, lady. Sure, you have some super talented people out there that gets it the first time. Yes, that they're people who pick up a tarot deck, they shuffle it, they lay it down, they sit with a little white book and tries to figure out a meaning, and it's the most amazing reading ever, because they're so talented that they just had a bit of beginner's luck. But for most of us, we have to work a bit. So yeah. In addition, she is, I don't think she's Christian as such, but she's a monotheist, and she's extremely preachy. So she sort of manages to have a mix between the bad things of Christianity and the bad things of New Age, and mix it all up in one book. In addition, she makes a lot of made-up terms for things, and that's completely okay. Often you encounter things that doesn't necessarily have a name, or you don't really know what to call it, or you make up a word that fits for you. But when she then presents this as, this is what it's called, this is the be-all end-all of it, it gets a bit annoying. But let's have a look at the index, shall we? Yep. We have a disclaimer and an introduction, which is basically your standard legal bullshit, and then introduction to the book. Your chapter 1, what is clairaudience, which has the sub-chapters. The Sound of Silence towards a working definition of clairaudience. Clairaudience through the ages, a history of the gift. Types of clairaudience. The science of clairaudience. It's a matter of energy, structures of energy, physical and subtle. Then you have chapter 2, Clairaudient Toolkit, Concepts and Techniques. You have technique 1, Spirit to Spirit. Now, here are some of the things I do like in the book. Some of the exercises are pretty good, and I do like her Spirit to Spirit exercise, which is a great way to basically just take a 30 seconds break from whatever you're doing and connect to spirit. I do believe that learning this exercise can be very helpful. Then you have exercise 1, awakening your clairaudience through spirit to spirit. Yeah, sure. Becoming more spiritual, more connected to the spiritual realms will help you develop psychic abilities. Exercise 2, establishing safety with healing streams of grace. It's another exercise of her. I do like this. It's a good protection exercise. It's a good way to end any form of spiritual contact. I'll give it that exercise works. It's completely okay with that. Listening to specific factors involved in clairaudience. Exercise 3, assessing a clairaudient source, clearing energetic attachments and wounds. Yeah, here we go into the oversimplification things, and also her idea that basically you should ask then source, which is her definition of a god figure, if a source that you are listening to are approved, then of course you immediately believe the answer, even without any form of training. It's an oversimplification. Additional points for discernment, where she immediately, of course, goes out. If it feels good, then it's good. If it feels bad, then it's bad. The problem is that a lot of information that you need to learn can come from something that feels bad. Let's say you need to do shadow work, or you need to work on a part of yourself that you feel a lot of resistance to. It will feel bad. So we are back to the fluffy bunny feels here. It's very, very superficial, and she sort of presents it as a by-all and all. Overly psychic clairaudient, red flags and warning signs. I guess this could happen, but it's basically if you open too much energy, it's basically you need to ground symptoms. Exercise 4, getting a gatekeeper. I don't like that exercise at all, because it basically, you summon up a creature, if it works, that is. Because this is you're supposed to do without any sort of training, and you sort of give them the right to control what you feel and not. Basically, they will control the connection, and if they don't like something, they will just shut it down. But no. Nobody controls my magic but me. Thank you. And for the creative use, stones and tones, which goes into some notes and tones that has to do with spiritual concepts. And then questions for assessing clairaudient communication. She has some questions going around here, and I was sort of just confused by those. I mean, the last thing you want to do when you're having a spiritual experience is just going through a questionnaire and clicking checklists. No. And then we have chapter 3, classical clairaudience, which is basically what she defines as being when you hear a voice or a sound directly, basically either in your head, or you hear it like it's somebody talking to you and there's nobody there. And then you have 3 styles of classical clairaudience, brain states for clairaudience. Oh yes, and her changing brain states. Oh, for heaven fucking sake, if it was that easy, we would... Okay, over that now. Basically, she presents that if you do this spirit-to-spirit exercise, then you can just tell your spirit to adjust your brainwaves. So, I shall be in Delta now. Boom. Now, yes, here's what you can do. If you train with trance states, You can very easily slip between stages. You can set up triggers that will get you into an alternate state very, very quickly. Will you be able to do this in 5 minutes by learning her spirit-to-spirit exercise and then you're saying, I am in Delta now? Hell fucking no. But it's gonna be easy and simple and fast, right? Where were we? Because I'm testing the brain state, which is just basically you're declaring what state you're in. Sound specifics, qualifying those voices, which is again, if it sounds happy, then all is well. If it doesn't sound happy, then source doesn't approve, because you need to have daddy approve. And we have type of messages, environmental sounds and listening to the world, role of feelings and the bodily senses. And then we have SSS 6, conducting a classical clairaudient session. Here's the thing. People are going to buy this book. Then they're going to listen to her promises. They're going to try to do this. They're going to get absolutely jack shit nothing. And they're going to be disappointed and toss the book and never do anything spiritual again. Instead of telling them that, you know what? Getting these things are probably going to take a lot of work. Then we have additional tips for protecting yourself during a full trance mediumship. She also basically mixes up being a trance medium with basically everything is clairaudience in her mind. And the thing is, it's somewhat difficult to separate the various forms of abilities from one another. So, I mean, they do slide into one another, but basically she has everything. Talking in tongues, trance mediumship, everything is just mixed into everything. It's a bit of a mess. But I do like her definitions when it comes to, for example, mediumships and how much of a control a spiritual being have over you. Where she put it into 3, and these are, for once, 3 useful definitions. Where you basically have one that is the lightest one, which is guided, where somebody basically, you can hear a voice, or you get an impulse to write something, or basically you something outside of you are telling you things and guiding you. Then you have a partial possession where a spiritual being do take part and enters you, but where you still have control yourself. And then you have a full trance medium experience where a spirit takes complete control of your body. And I do like these definitions. It's just that if you're a beginner, yeah, full trance mediumship isn't gonna happen. It's not about, oh, but that you might not want that because it's more dangerous. No. It isn't gonna happen. This is like basically somebody saying, oh, and then there are people who can play Toccata and Fugue in D-moll. And they talk about that on your first ever piano lesson. Yeah, sure, there are people that can do that, but you are not going to do that on your first lesson. And then you have additional tips, clearing a bothersome source, how to conduct the seance, and questions and assessing a clairaudient communication. Which again, with her questions, which is just, yeah. We have chapter 4, speaking in tongues. It is sort of interesting. It is one of the first books I have seen that basically go into detail how to use this. You have 2 versions of the same channeling gift. Speaking a divine language, clairaudient language speaking, and tips sounding yourself open, and questions for assessing a clairaudient communication. And yeah, here she's all basically, hey, and then you need somebody, if you're trying then to speak another language that you can't speak, you need somebody speaking that language to sit there and translate for you. Yeah, again, you will need a lot of experience with that. Any kind of channeling, you need experience. You might get a word here and there, you might get something, but you're not going to basically just be speaking out the wisdoms of the world at your first try, unlike what this book claims. And then we have chapter 5, Clairaudient Writing. What is Clairaudient Writing? Guided writing, a matter of opening to the flow. Automatic writing, going with the flow of wisdom. Exercise 10, writing through clairaudience. And she, like I said, she calls everything clairaudience. And dealing with looping messages, sending healing through the guided writing. This is an interesting one, where you basically send a postcard, but you ask Spirit to send a healing message on it. I might use that technique. It's pretty interesting. Questions for assessing a clairaudient communication. Then you have chapter 6, Clairaudient Telepathy. Are telepathic connections, primal telepathy, the art of safety, from the physical empathy to physical telepathy, feeling telepathy, hearing the messages, exercise 12, telepathy, speaking your feelings, mental telepathy, where your mind meets matter, exercise 13, practicing a mental telepathy with a partner, spiritual telepathy, speaking godness aloud, and exercise 14, speaking to an angel. Questions for assessing clairaudient communication. It's this chapter on telepathy. It's bad. What more do you want to know? Yeah, chapter 7, natural clairaudience, communicating with nature. Beings of nature, the diversity around you. Major types of natural beings. Natural earthly beings. Fantastical earthly beings. Otherworldly natural beings. Exercise for 15, communicating with natural earthly beings. Additional tips, communicating with a family pet. Exercise 16, communicating with an otherworldly being. Additional tip, working with 8th and 10th chakras, which is her definition of them, because there's quite a few different ideas about what the various other chakras are, but yes. And questions for assessing a clairaudient communication. And it's also completely fine if she has developed some own energy centers, but of course she has, oh, and here we have a little paragraph of that, and then you can buy my other books, because I want more money, suckers. Then we have chapter 8, healing and manifesting through clairaudience. Healing through clairaudience, healing through tongue speaking, reprogramming your DNA with clairaudient healing. Okay, we have had this DNA bullshit going on in the New Age community for a while. It doesn't work like that. I'm a believer in magic. That's why I study this shit. But try not to mix magic with... Try not to mix magic in with this science in such a way just to try to give it some sort of added... Can you heal yourself? Absolutely. Can you improve yourself? Absolutely. Could it be possible to change your DNA? Absolutely. Will you do that by just following these tips? No. Nope. No. Manifesting through clairaudience, boost your manifesting by renewing your red zone, which is also something that is from her other books that she will need you to buy her books to explain, which is a sort of spiritual battery she has made up. Additional tips, creating a miracle stone. Additional tip, writing down the bones of manifesting. And questions on assessing for clairaudience communication. Sure, she has some simple manifesting tips. Guess you can get some results with that. The conclusion, Appendix A, questions to ask. Appendix B, essential energy work techniques and references. There are a couple of exercises in there that are good. If the speaking in tongues section is pretty okay, it's a little bit, if you take it with a grain of salt and expect to have to put in some work, you can get something out of that. The books generally are bullshit. I'll give this book 3 out of 10, and it gets those 3 just for those exercises and this chapter on speaking in tongues. Otherwise, it's a preachy, overbearing, oversimplified piece of garbage. I do not recommend it. If you find it in a bargain bin for like $1, you can pick it up for those exercises. Other than that, there's better books out there. And that is my review of Raise Clairaudient Energy by Cyndi Dale. Hope you have enjoyed this review. Have a great day and blessed be.